Hello and welcome to Common Room Conversations. My name is Chris.
And my name is Brenden.
And this is the very first episode. And I'm excited.
I'm pretty excited as well, Chris, I have to say. On this podcast, we will be talking everything pop culture, mainstream, to do with either video game releases, movie trailers, announcements for anything and everything pop culture.
He just dropped his phone. That's what that was.
Yeah, I just dropped my phone. That's my bad.
He got so excited. He was throwing it around.
So excited. So, Chris, how would you like to start this off today?
Okay, so we've got 4 trailers to talk about to start off. So, let's preface this with I have never been like a Batman person.
I know you haven't.
I don't even think I've seen a Batman movie. I think Joker's like the only thing I've seen in that realm. So it's out of my wheelhouse.
That's horrible.
But I felt like there was a little bit too much fight. I literally wrote too much fight, lack of story that I could tell. And what story there was, I was confused as fuck.
There's gonna be a lot of questions and speculation around what the actual main story is, but it's showing off Batman's true strength in the trailer of the fighting. And on top of that, we have a great director with Matt Reeves as directing it. And I there's been a lot of criticism and speculation around Robert Pattinson being casted as the Batman, but I think just from seeing the trailer, I think he's going to play a great Batman. He's going to play very ominous and mysterious Bruce Wayne. There's going to be, I feel, a lot of questions raised around his character and what he does with his proceedings at night and such throughout his life. But a lot of stuff I took away from the trailer is not only is it the introduction to a new universe with the Batman, with a whole new cast and a whole new director, but I'm very interested in seeing that with this introduction to the first story within probably, hopefully, a franchise, a trilogy, or saga, or however many they're going to do to continue it, is that it introduces 3 villains that we know of just from the trailer.
So I only saw 2.
So who the 2 you saw?
I saw Riddler and Penguin.
Yes, but you also have to remember that Catwoman is considered a villain.
Is she?
But she's also an anti-hero because she has had run-ins with the world's greatest detective in the past, but a lot of them, not all of them, are sort of a rivalry. So my question was, will Catwoman be acting as a villain or an ally to Batman with this movie? A lot of the trailer did speculate that she does have a lot of interactions with him that aren't reduced to them just duking it out, fisticuffs, and they're actually talking and they're discussing all the plans and everything. And so I feel as though that she will mainly play like an anti-villain role. She won't give a shit about the law, and she'll still try to, break as much as she can and be a criminal and rob, but she's also going to have that soft spot. And if she starts to begin to develop a feeling and caring relationship for Robert Pattinson's Batman, that she'll act more of an ally than really one of the many villains in his rogue gallery, which I feel that's the main point they're trying to come across. But I feel as though...
Interesting. Because I wonder if that's a distraction to make you think that way, and then you watch the movie and you're completely thrown off.
It could very much well be that way, because there have been... she's not, the most reliable, trustworthy person. She's a criminal. And just because she's an ally doesn't mean that she'll stab you in the back. She could act as a double agent. It could all be a ploy. And it could, just be her trying to just get inside his head and make him lose sight of what's actually right and wrong. But I feel as though just from seeing their interaction, he's being very resilient towards her charm. Especially with the scene when she's trying to ask him who's under the mask, and he's showing no emotion. He's just straight his face, just looking right at her and just not saying a word. Just letting her do. He's letting her do all the talking, and it's going that way. But not only with Catwoman. We saw in the very beginning of the trailer that was released to the DC fandom, with the newest trailer release being the big, which I think is going to be the main antagonist, is the Riddler. So we see right from the beginning of the trailer with the one that was released to the DC fandom that he is just sitting in a coffee shop and he's being surrounded, he's being stormed in by police officers, and he just allows them to be arrested. He allows himself to get arrested.
Yeah, he
allows them to just place him into their custody. So. My main question is what is his plan? We see him allow himself to become arrested, and then we see later in the trailer that he is talking to Batman behind the glass when he's in the prison, and he's saying that it was probably his whole plan all along, try and reach out to him and talk to him. and he kind of wants to mock Batman in the way, because in the comics, when the Riddler was introduced, it's Batman has been the Riddler's biggest and greatest rival, not because of so much as brawn and strength, but because of outsmarting the Riddler. The Riddler has met his match with his intellect within the world's greatest detective. He's the only person that the Batman's the only person who's ever beaten the Riddler in his own game. So, but one thing on that is the Riddler's the match to Powder Keg. Like all the chaos and commotion that is ensuing within their world and Gotham City, and everything that's happening with like the criminal underworld rising, and that he compared the Riddler to just a match to a much bigger keg of powder. What I was thinking is the Riddler going to act as the main antagonist, or is he just a ploy and a pawn to introduce a much bigger threat to Batman in the future?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought there.
Because one thing that
he was very prominent in the trailer.
Yeah, exactly. So he's very, very ominous about his plans. And another thing too is there was a part in the trailer, I don't know if you recall, but when it shows the live streaming, it says serial killer live stream. Now the thing is, it has a voiceover of the Riddler. He's giving a riddle to taunt the GCPD and Batman. So was that actually him on the live stream though? Because that's another thing. It could have been just a random serial killer. It could have been, they could introduce a serial killer named Victor Zsasz, who every time he would commit a crime, he would commit a murder, he would carve that murder onto his body. So he would self-harm as a way of coping with the murder, with his murdering of victims. So, and that could be maybe why he was wearing a mask, to hide his identity and not show all the scars around his face.
It looked like it was a gas mask.
It did, but the Riddler has donned a gas mask, I believe, in the past in the comics, and that could lead us to believe that. Or again, it could be connected to a different serial killer, maybe either him or maybe Calendar Man. And this movie offers up so many opportunity for the world's greatest detective and all Batman rogues gallery. So we could get not only the three that we saw, but we can get even more villains, is what I'm thinking. Mm-hmm. And which leads us to the third villain that played a prominent role in the trailer was the Penguin, aka Oswald Cobblepot. So what did you think about their introduction to Colin Farrell's portrayal of Oswald Cobblepot? So
I feel like I only saw him in the car.
He was in a couple. He was when the Batman was at it looked to be like maybe a factory or maybe like an underworld like operation when he and exact words actually from the trailers. Well, whoa, take it easy, sweetheart. Like that was him. That was Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin. So what I took note of is what role will he play in the film as well? He and one question I do actually have is I've been mentioning his alter ego is the Penguin, but his actual full given name is Oswald Cobblepot. So will he already have the reputation to Batman, to the GCPD, and to the criminals of any of Gotham City's underworld as the Penguin, or will he just be referred to as Oswald Cobblepot, mob boss? And will he build up the reputation of being referred to as the Penguin? So there's a lot of speculation. And with that, with talking about the main villains of...
Actually, speaking on that fact, I wonder if they won't introduce him as the Penguin and they'll use him to set up a secondary movie where he is the main person. Because I wonder if they're just using him as that. Because it seems like I don't feel like I saw him in like what the Penguin would wear.
Well, that's fair too, but you also wouldn't see. It's a lot of the costuming and design is different for this movie as well. Like Catwoman's costume design is very, very different from what her comic book adaptation was, and we don't see much more of the Riddler besides him, in a trench coat in a diner after being arrested, and we don't see him until he's already behind bars in a prison jumpsuit. It could be that, but another thing I had an idea of a possible setup was maybe that the Riddler and the Penguin are pawns in a game to maybe introduce someone that's really never been introduced except for in the Gotham television series, the Court of Owls, which is they're a huge organization, but they're very very exclusive, very secretive criminal enterprise. The Court of Owls, yes. So they're very. I know they're going to be main antagonists in the upcoming Gotham City Knights video game being released, I believe, in 2022.
Okay.
I believe the Court of Owls are taking a huge villain role in that. So that I believe that'll be one of their biggest outbreaks into a Batman titled video game. But I believe that they could have something to do because there was a part in the trailer where I don't know if you remember, but you see Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne. He's standing in like almost a circle. Like there's photos and there's
so okay. Now that you're bringing this up, that was Batman in that circle. Okay,
that was Bruce Wayne.
So I was incredibly confused, and this is how confused I was. I paused the trailer and I drew that circle and everything that was in it because I was lost out of my mind with what the fuck was going on. And I had to talk about it because it had the question mark in the middle, and I was like, is that the Joker? Or not the Joker. No, that's not what I meant to say. The Riddler. Because his signal is the circle, the question mark. So I was like, is that him?
So that I had a couple, again, me mentioning the Court of Owls, that for that circle alone, it's such a stretch to be maybe in the Court of Owls. Maybe it's because you see all the writing and you see the photos. Yep. So what it most likely is because you see the question mark in the middle, he's standing above the question mark. It could be him, the Riddler, leaving at different crime scenes, Batman, a bunch of riddles and keywords that maybe he put into relation with the photos he has surrounding the text that he put on the ground to try and figure out the riddle. But if it wasn't that somehow, that's probably the most plausible explanation of why that's existing.
Okay.
It's
a riddle.
It's a riddle. Okay. It's him trying to figure out the Riddler's next game is what I think. Because like I said before, the Batman is the Riddler's greatest adversary. He's not because of might, but because of intellect. He's the only person to ever outsmart the Riddler, and with as many times as he has. But again, I was like drawing to more of a thing of the directions of the writers going of maybe that's someone toying with the Batman and leaving that for him, and he finds it, and maybe that's a Court of Owls, and like because it does mention the sins of my father, so maybe they'll go into a direction of the story where they have Thomas Wayne, who's Bruce Wayne's father, have been mixed up in some sort of criminal activity that was leading him to be a horrible person, almost like Oliver Queen's father in the CW's Arrow. That is also DC as well. So maybe they could be that way, and maybe the Court of Owls was in on it with Thomas and Martha Wayne's death, and they could be toying with him. But again, that's huge speculation. That's just what I think could be happening if it's not him trying to figure out one of the Riddler's plans.
I might be very stretching here, but since you said that, what if his father was getting involved with the Penguin? Like getting involved with the mob.
So one thing I will add to that, it will relate to it is when will the movie take place? Because they could go the direction with the Penguin, aka Oswald Cobblepot, in so many different directions on how long he's been proactive in the underworld and the crime syndicate within Gotham, and so all depending on the time. You know, I know in the comics originally the Waynes kind of disgraced the Cobblepot name. So so Oswald kind of wanted to, get a lot of his story was trying to get even against the Waynes. He tried to destroy their name as well when he rose to power. But that is a good, that's not a stretch. That's a really good observation.
Maybe, yeah. So if they were like kind of like at battle, maybe they formed a truce at some point and then started working secretly together. Or they were working together the whole time, and it was just kind of like a show from the front to distract from the fact that they were doing all this shady shit in the background.
If we're gonna go that far, I wouldn't say he would, because like I said, like the Waynes have like drove the Cobblepot's name through the mud. I wouldn't say they would go as far as working together with the Cobblepots, but that also brings another question: is Oswald Cobblepot going to be the only mentioned crime syndicate? Because we have also the Falcones and I believe the Maloneys are two bigger crime families, and I know they had a lot of dealings with Wayne Enterprises and the Waynes as well. I believe if they start off with Oswald Cobblepot as a huge crime boss, then they have to have the Falcones and the Maloneys.
Yeah,
it'd be the only sensible thing to do, because you can't just have one crime syndicate in such a big city like Gotham. But also with the time period of the movie, that also brings me to trailer that was released for the movie. We do see at a crime scene that the Riddler had left, we see Robert Pattinson's Batman in there with the GCPD. But we also see later in the newest trailer that he's on top of a building and the cops are going to grab him, but he flies off and glides away from the police. So my question is, as in the past, will will he already have a correlation in allying with the GCPD and Commissioner Gordon, or will he have to build towards his relationship, and so the cops would trust him more? Is my question, because it could be that the cops already trust him. You know, he's again, it's all about timing. Like, when does it take place? Like, how long has he already been the Batman to everybody in Gotham prior to the movie? And if he has for such a long time, maybe that, you know, we saw him working with the cops and he was analyzing a crime scene, and maybe later in the trailer we see him trying to be grabbed and taken by the cops. Maybe that could correlate with one of the villains, either the Penguin or the Riddler, or whoever else they may introduce in this movie, framing him for a crime and trying to drag the Batman's name through the mud as well.
Huh, interesting. So you mentioned that the director is Matt Reeves. So you mentioned that prior. Yes. And he is also the same director for War for the Planet of the Apes. He also directed Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And he's got 13 director credits under his belt.
Yes, what I like to see about the Dawn, the Planet of the Apes movie, and as well as War for the Planet of the Apes, is one of my personal favorite castings of this movie is that now Matt Reeves directing the movie is also now working once again with pretty much the star of the Planet of the Apes movies is Andy Serkis, because in those movies,
which
Andy
is
Serkis,
a big name,
huge name. And I'm thrilled absolutely just ecstatic to hear the news that he was playing Alfred Pennyworth, because I've loved every single casting that's ever been for Alfred within the Batman universe with all these different movies, and none of them have ever failed to put out a fantastic performance as Alfred.
Yeah,
I love that Andy Serkis will now be showing off his talent as in such a great and dramatic movie as this. It's going to be a dramatic movie filled with plenty of action, and I just believe it's going to be a phenomenal casting choice on him. So one big question, I know you mentioned it earlier too, is that you said not enough story and a lot of fighting. Again,
well, that's what it seemed like in the trailer, but that could also be they just want to make it action-packed, and then when the movie actually comes...
Yeah, it's kind of like an attention grabber. It's like, wow, this is going to be like nothing we've seen before. There's been plenty of action in Batman movies, but this is going to be nuts. So my question is...
I don't really like trailers like that, though. I like getting story.
Well, again, because it's
like being like, I want to know what's happening. Not, why is this person just beating the shit out of this other person? I want to know, like... the conversations, like,
well, it's different for you too, because you don't have the context of previously viewed Batman movies.
Yeah.
So of course you might want like a new introduction to the story, but for someone who's been, I like DC and all, but Marvel is still my hands down all time favorite. Like with the cinematic pieces they produce, but I've always been a Batman fan. Video games, the TV shows, movies, anything related to Batman, I will watch it hands down. I think it's incredible. Great, probably my favorite DC hero ever. But what big question I have of this is, because there's been so many interpretations in the past with movies and TV shows and such, with the amount of violence that we saw from the trailer, do you think that Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson's Batman will go as far as not only basically hospitalizing every single criminal he encounters, but do you think he would go far as killing them?
I don't think so. Because I really feel like this is like, I feel like it's gonna set up a second one. Because I feel like the first Batman they went how many movies?
Well, so it started off with way before, like it started off a little bit before Adam West, but I started watching with Adam West Batman, and that was more, they couldn't do a lot with movies and TV shows like that, and like being as gruesome as they are now. But then it was Jack Nicholson. And I'm talking about the live action movies here. I'm not going to dive completely into, because we have a lot more topics to talk about. I'm not going to dive into
how many
animated series
installments
of live action.
Yes.
So we had it a little bit before. I'm not sure prior to Adam West.
Like, has there been any actor that has just done one singular Batman movie?
Yes, there have been two. Yes, there have been two. There's been Val Kilmer, and there was George Clooney. They both only did one Batman movie. So when Michael Keaton did two of them in the 80s with director Tim Burton. And I'm not 1,000% positive on the Val Kilmer director. I believe it was Tim Burton as well, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure on the director for the Batman Forever with George Clooney, but that received a lot of backlash. Val Kilmer and George Clooney were not popular
back then.
They're popular actors. They're very famous, well-known actors, but not as popular choice for to play Batman. And then after them, it was Christian Bale for the Batman Begins, Batman: The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises, which The Dark Knight, in my opinion, is one of the greatest Batman movies that ever exist. And then after that, we had the Batman vs. Superman with Ben Affleck. I wouldn't count Ben Affleck as being a solo outing for Batman, considering Ben Affleck is so far he's played Batman, but has not had a solo title as in a Batman movie because
he was supposed to.
He was supposed to, yes, but that got scrapped. He had a small cameo in the 2016 Suicide Squad, and he was in Batman vs. Superman, and then they had the Justice League movie come out. And then it just had the reshoots for everything in the Justice League movie for the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
So that was, and you see, I wouldn't count Michael Keaton's performances as going back to the topic as whether or not Robert Pattinson's Batman will be on a killing spree.
Yeah.
I feel as though Michael Keaton's Batman didn't purposely kill any villains. The Joker did die at the end of the first one, but I feel as though that was not purposeful. And same goes for the deaths in his sequel movie to that. And I know Christian Bale's Batman was heavily against anything to do with killing people. That Bruce Wayne / Batman performance was very much against no guns, no killing, and I believe there's only 2 accidental deaths within that.
Did we see any guns in this trailer? Because I don't believe we did.
No. Batman does not use guns, but you saw plenty of guns as they were shooting the hell out of them.
Yeah.
Well, you saw the criminals as well shooting like assault automatic rifles at him.
Were they?
Yes, they were, and that brings us to the bat suit.
That just shows how confused as fuck I was. That I don't even remember this shit.
It shows the durability of his bat suit because it's right off the bat. We already see it's bad, no pun intended. We see that right off the rip, it's bulletproof. Mm-hmm. It's impenetrable bullets because he's just walking towards his criminals, unloading a fully automatic assault rifles at him. It's going to make him an unstoppable force. So I believe that with the dark undertone that they're trying to go in the direction with this film, I believe that I don't believe he would be the type to take a criminal's life, but I'm not completely dismissing it as well because of the dark undertone. They could very much well have him be more of a murderous Batman.
It definitely had like the dark like feeling of that the Joker had.
Which I really love that fact because it's it fits with the character as well because the Dark Knight and the dark aesthetic to the film, the way I'm very excited for this film. I cannot wait to see everything that Matt Reeves brings to the table with this film and this project.
I'll definitely see it as well.
I'm very excited to see it.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. It definitely looks decent. But the movie is set to release on March 4th. So...
I believe did they change that? I believe it was a different release date. Let me.
IMDb said March 4th.
Let me see.
That's where I'm getting my facts from. Is IMDb. But that's the latest I heard.
No, yep, okay. I for some reason I'm thinking March 22nd. I don't know why.
Maybe there's something else coming out that day.
Maybe it might be. I'm just confusing it with. Okay. So yeah, that's all the topics we have to discuss the trailer for the Batman movie, and I'm sure we can maybe revisit some of those topics at a later episode when we possibly get another trailer.
We get another one, or and even when the movie comes out. Our thoughts on it after the movie. We got
about 5 months till it comes out.
We've got time.
We'll see. All right, we moving along now.
Now, you guys know we're very new to this whole
podcasting thing, and it kind of wouldn't be possible. Now, Anchor is the sponsor of today's episode, and they are the reason that we are able to do what we do. They help us with everything from creating to distributing the podcast, and even helping us connect to sponsors so that we can continue to do what we love with you guys. Now, Anchor has the tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Now, that is super simple, right at the palm of your hands. I can get a podcast edited immediately if I wanted to. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. We're available on 22 different podcasting sites, and that's all because of Anchor. They make it super simple and super easy to get yourself out there. They have everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Now, if you want to join the podcasting space, you can download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
All right, so now it's time to talk about Uncharted. Now, Uncharted comes out on February 18th, so pretty close.
Yeah, it's a very, very close release date, and I for one, am very excited for that movie. Way back when it was announced, I'm mainly an Xbox person myself. I've never really owned any of the PlayStation games of Uncharted, but that's what the movie is based on. It's based off the stories of Nathan Drake and the 4 different Uncharted video games that have all been released as PlayStation exclusives. I have played a few of them as well, and I great stories to them, and just phenomenal gameplay. It was very fun to play. And when it was announced that my favorite casting for it is Tom Holland.
Yep.
Playing the main
Spot
character, Nathan Drake. It looks exactly like a young Nathan Drake. And then if they do have plans in the future to, make, a franchise out of this for movie wise, that he is still young enough where he can play Nathan Drake for a good couple of titles.
Yep. Very true. Very true. I wrote down a lot of notes.
Yeah.
And they were all pretty much the same thing. National Treasure ? Jungle Cruise ?
Jungle Cruise.
Yes. I was very much like, we are just doing the same thing over and over. They just were like, let's take from this movie and this movie and just baby.
How dare you disrespect Uncharted with Jungle Cruise?
Jungle Cruise. They were in this cave with the fucking boats inside. Jungle Cruise.
But the whole premise around it is Nathan Drake. He's an adventurer. He goes on all these different journeys, and
the Jungle Cruise is an adventure.
No, I will say I'll agree with you on the National Treasure vibes, because treasure hunting.
Yes, it was
It has a lot to do with that. When he's approached by Sully, who is played by Mark Wahlberg, a little fuzzy on. I love Mark Wahlberg. Yeah, I think he's a phenomenal actor.
I need to see more of the. I wrote down. I need to see more of the acting from him to see if he actually fits.
I feel he'll
he
be
seems good.
I feel he'll be a great role, but the thing that the only thing that bugs me about his casting as Sully is the famous mustache. Sullivan has this great mustache in the games, and we see a much younger Sully as Mark Wahlberg portrays him, because Sully's not the youngest dude.
Well, that might be like the point that they were trying to go across.
I mean, maybe
too.
even in
But like you were saying, maybe there's going to be more. So maybe slowly he will grow to be an older and more mustache-filled man.
Well, yeah, no, but even in the games, we see flashbacks of a younger version of Sully who could still had a mustache.
Oh, interesting.
So I mean, it's not a huge thing. It's just I've grown up like seeing like, oh, dude, Sullivan. Is great.
It's coming out in February. It's coming right off of No Shave November, so he just wanted to he wanted it off. It had to go.
I did already like within the trailer. I did like the interaction between the chemistry between Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland.
Yeah, it seemed very
quippy, very quippy, very fast. I know one question I had. You said you aren't as familiar with it, but I played the games. One thing I am curious about, and throwing it back to the topic of what will they make more movies in a franchise, or if because I really thought that maybe they won't do multiple movies. Maybe they'll try one for now,
See how
and
it
you
goes.
combine all different contexts from the video games into just one movie and one story. And what really supports that idea that I had is that there is really no mention in the video games, and anyone who listens to this can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe there's any mention of Nathan Drake, who's played by Tom Holland. I don't believe there's any mention of his brother Sam until the 4th video game. But we do hear conversation between Sully and Nathan Drake about Nathan's brother Sam. And if they're planning to make more movies, then that's already a big red flag of, wow, maybe they're going to go in a completely different way, or maybe the second movie will introduce Sam. And
Maybe the next movie will just be a prequel.
It could very much be a prequel. We only have one trailer on it, and it went through complications with this movie. We couldn't possibly see a pushback in date if everything doesn't go as according to plan, because I know that it struggled a lot with pre and post production with finding the right director, because it had a couple of different directors walk off the project.
One thing I had a question about with this too was it was very interesting. It looked very good. The graphics were spectacular.
You mean just special effects?
Yes, the graphics. Yep. Mm-hmm. The special effects were great. The action scenes were not overpowering, like how the Batman was. It was a lot of action and fighting, which here, you really got the story of it. Now, is this journey going to be a journey that you go through in the video game, or a completely new journey altogether? You know what I mean? Are they trying to bring a video game to life, or are they just creating a new journey in that same realm of Uncharted?
Well, which is perfect is because I do believe that they'll probably piece together or pull one of the main objectives from whichever video game they really of their choosing that they decided to have like the end goal be.
Yeah.
I know from the trailer, I was amazed to see the plane sequence with the cargo flying out of the back, because that's pulled directly from one of the chapters in the video game. And
I wrote that the plane sequence was dope. That was my note. Dope.
But going back to what you said about the action, it's what I loved about the video games is that it wasn't just all, oh, we have to find this treasure. Oh, here's some bad guys. Let's pull out a gun and just shoot them.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of it was like a puzzle game. You got
creative thinking.
A lot of creative thinking you got to do, and there's a bunch of different puzzles you got to solve to get to your next area. And yes, there was some rivalry with other treasure hunters or people trying to protect something or steal something, and you're trying to prevent them from doing that. Mm-hmm. So in the games they were equipped with weapons, with guns and such, and they one thing I'm very excited too about is in the game they did like a lot of like parkour, rock climbing, kind of like free like
parkour.
Yeah, a lot of like free running and such, whether it be on the cliff sides or rooftops. And in the trailer we actually get to see some of that. And
so mentioning that, I wrote down Spider-Man vibes on roof, because that scene was just like something straight out of Spider-Man.
I'm not going to compare it to Spider-Man because it's completely two different universes. It's Tom Holland, but I wouldn't say Spider-Man.
But it was like the same sequence that they did in Spider-Man where he's running on rooftops, either after or away from something, and it looked like the exact same filming location.
No, for a comment I would have that, I would just say incredible stunt work done by Tom Holland once again, because there's no doubt in my mind that if we look back into it and looked into it more, that Tom Holland did either all of his stunts or at least 80% of all his stunts, because he has that experience in the background with doing his own stunts, and he's incredibly athletic.
Doesn't he have isn't it ballerina experience that he has?
I believe ballerina, but he also gymnastics and stuff like that.
But he could do his own stunts, but looking at it, he's becoming such a big star that it might be way too much of a liability to have him.
I wouldn't say that, because Tom Cruise does all of his own stunts still in all of his movies, and he's been doing it for years.
Didn't he break his arm on one movie or something?
No, he broke his I believe broke his ankle.
But so here's the reason for that movie studios don't want to do that is if they do something like break an ankle, you're halting the entire production and costing it millions.
No, but not by a lot.
It depends on how bad your injury is.
I mean, not necessarily, because also think back to it just happened recently.
Because that brings me to the point of I saw this on Twitter. It was from Ruby Rose, who plays Catwoman in the shows.
Okay.
Where she hurt herself on set of one of the movies.
Okay.
And the director was like blaming her for the production because they wouldn't recast her.
Okay.
They told her basically.
Oh no, Batwoman.
Yep. So they told her basically, if you don't do this job, everyone is losing their job and it's your fault. Because they wouldn't recast her. So they made her come back before she was like recovered to do this role because she was more worried about everyone else.
Interesting. Yeah.
So
it all depends really, because you have to have plenty of experience with it too. Because another thing on that is, and they can completely, with the actor's consent, of course, they completely can film around the injury, because I don't know if you recall, but Jeremy Renner does a lot of his own stunts as well, and he did a stunt for the movie he was in, Tag, where he had to jump out a window, and he actually broke both of his arms, but he was still on set and filming and they covered it up in Avengers Endgame. So because it was around the time where he had broken arms and he was still filming for Avengers Endgame. So there are ways around it.
Well, he didn't. It didn't. It caused a disturbance for a different movie, not Tag.
What I'm saying is he on set of Tag he broke his arms.
Yeah,
and
then
he still
it screwed up Endgame.
It didn't screw up Endgame. He still filmed the scenes.
But they knew going into it that they'd have to accommodate that.
Well, yeah, but it's not. Again, with stuff like that too. It's not a huge draining deficit for it depends. It depends on the person in charge. It depends on the severity of the injury as well. Yeah, but I'm excited to see the Tom Holland exclusive stunt work as well, because he does it for all of his other films, such as Spider-Man. He does a great job in that.
So another note I had is shaved head assassin equals badass. So she was brought around a lot, and she looked pretty badass, I will say.
I'm drawing a blank because, like I said, I haven't played all the games through, but I can't recall if she is a complete canon from the video games. I believe, a new character. Yes, I believe she might be, and I can't recall, but I believe she was actually a double agent.
Oh, interesting.
So I believe that she will be working alongside Mark Wahlberg, Sully, and Tom Holland's Nathan Drake. But I do also believe that if she, she
seemed very much like the head honcho of the bad guys. Like she was the assassin of them.
It could be that, but also it could be she's working with them to solve something. But then plot twist. She was the villain all along.
Okay.
So it could go in a lot of different ways. And again, because if they do decide to culminate all the different video games of the four of them into just one big masterpiece of a movie, then I'm very excited to see the direction they take. I'm very excited to find out the duration of the movie, and I'm very excited to see what it holds for the future of that movie. And I'm very excited to see it. To be quite frank, I'm going to be seeing that probably maybe 3 times. I'll see it in opening night. I'll see it with a couple other buddies. I'll probably see it with you too if you like to see it.
Yeah, it's directed by Ruben Fleischer. But I'm probably saying that incorrectly. But he was in charge of Zombieland 1 and 2.
Yes.
He did Venom.
For that. He did do Venom.
So he's got some big blockbusters under his belt. He has 30 director credits. So he's been doing this for a bit. But Zombieland 1 and 2 are...
They're icons.
They're fantastic.
Be quite frank.
I haven't seen Venom. That's one thing I haven't seen. I have to watch it, and I have to watch the new one coming out too. But I have yet to see.
It came out in October. It came out earlier.
Shows how much I'm paying attention.
Last month, by the time the episode airs.
I've seen the trailer about 2,000 times, but
I can't recall if they brought him back for Venom 2. I cannot remember if they did.
I don't think they did.
But I will
because it would have told me on IMDb if he was the one directing it.
Yeah, I could have.
So I would have wrote that down.
I think it is a new director for the second one, but I heard nothing but I saw bits and pieces of the first Venom, and I heard nothing but good things about it. And it was directed and portrayed well enough that they launched the second one almost. I think the second one got greenlit 3 months after the first.
Here, you know what I'm thinking about? So if they didn't bring Ruben back, I wonder if there was a reason for that. Now, here's the reason I say that, right? So Venom 2 stars Harold. What is his
Woody
name?
Harrelson. Woody Harrelson.
Who is the main character of Zombieland 1 and 2.
Yep, he's one of the. Yep, he plays.
So I'm
Tallahassee.
wondering, maybe there's like an issue where he was like, I won't work with him again.
I don't know about
That's
that.
interesting.
Well, I don't know about that because I feel like there would have been a lot more problems on set of Zombieland 2 if Woody Harrelson had a problem with it.
Maybe the problem developed with Zombieland 2.
Well, that's a big if too, though,
Yeah.
because it doesn't have to be any feuds related. It could be scheduling conflicts and when they want this movie, because already Uncharted was very stalled in their production pre and post.
Yeah.
So it could have just been okay, he can't do it this time, and we need him.
Yeah, I wonder if Uncharted actually did their filming in the same time that Venom did.
I believe a little bit of the filming was done. But we can also discuss that more along if we do another video on Uncharted before it comes out. If we do another,
I would love to know the reason why that happened.
The biggest thing I can think of is maybe just scheduling conflicts.
Scheduling.
That's the only thing I really think of.
Interesting.
Okay.
Very interesting. Okay. Next topic we have to talk about is Buzz Lightyear, which we have a teaser trailer for. It comes out on June 17th. So a while left. So we just have a teaser. It was like a minute and 30 seconds.
Yeah, it wasn't long at all.
It wasn't too long, but there was a lot in it that made me think of other stuff. Just like Uncharted, where I thought about, other movies. This movie had a lot of like that. And it was very weird. So my first instinct was that the graphics of it were beautiful. The art was spectacular.
I do like the style of animation that they are going with within this movie. It gives me a lot of Frozen vibes.
Mm-hmm.
The way the animation style is, and I believe, a lot of like Pixar movies like that. This Pixar, correct?
It's Pixar, yes.
A lot of Pixar movies are going in the direction of like that direction now a lot too, less like animation, but more of well, it is animation, but the style of animation they're going with a lot. They've been doing that ever since Toy Story, and I love seeing the further progression.
Yep.
And how much detail is
more
thrown
3D
in, and how more three dimensional is. And it looks beautiful.
It does.
And the special effects are going to be great for that movie, and I'm very, very excited to see it because I love Toy Story. And what really interested me about this was when it was announced, before we even got a teaser about it, I was like, oh, we're just gonna have a solo story of Buzz Lightyear. But no, it's not the toy.
Yep.
It's
the person before.
What the toy is based off of, the actual astronaut and space hero.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very curious to see that, and how one thing I was confused, like it could raise some question in the future about it, but like the technology seemed very advanced. If you know what I mean, because Toy Story released in, what was it, 1999 was Toy Story, or early 2000s was the first
1999, I believe.
But, yeah, so it's like wow, you have that, but wait a minute, Buzz Lightyear's the toy was based off of this hero. And you have all this like advanced like technology and like some stuff you wouldn't see like probably even now, and like during the takeoff sequence with this rocket.
It was very much. I felt like this movie was, it gave me vibes of Star Wars, and like Star Wars, the first one was filmed in like the 60s, 70s.
No, it was late 70s.
So like they didn't have floating islands back then. Like I feel like it falls into the sci-fi.
Well, it does fall
category.
into a huge sci-fi category because you see him take off from this planet and he goes around the sun.
Yeah.
And we're not sure on what planet, but in my opinion, it looked as though he was possibly.
They were inhabiting another planet.
Yes, I believe it was Mars. It gave me a vibe of being on Mars.
It was like a circular building.
And what vibe that gave to me was from Total Recall. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Total Recall, but there was a movie that came out in, I believe it was the 80s. The first one came out with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And a lot of the vibes that it gave me from the Lightyear trailer was seeing that. It's like, oh, this could be Mars. And a lot of the buildings that they're in on Mars could easily replicate the buildings that inhabited Mars in Total Recall.
I got a lot of Star Wars vibes.
It gave me Star Wars vibes as well.
They landed on a planet, and it was like they were in Yoda's swamp, and they were on Dagobah.
Wow, yeah,
and I was like,
now
wait,
I remember.
What?
I do remember that as well, and it did remind me of Dagobah's the Dagobah system as well. And it also raised me a question now that you brought that up. I totally forgot about that. The droid, because you saw like he had a robot with him at that part where they peek over the rock and it's him, and then there's a robot, and they're like looking at like a creature within that's in the swamp, and that it gives us Star Wars vibes as well, because it could be an android, it could be a robot.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if it's like a sentient being that has its own like neurological pathways of thinking, but I'm very curious, and one huge question I had is, is this going to be an adventure story, or is it going to have a main villain, and will it be Zurg?
Interesting. I don't know if it will have a villain. It seemed very adventurous, but that could also be throwing us off, right? It's only a teaser, so they might not have announced, a villain story to it. One thing I wrote down was the tentacle kidnap. It was just a random like arm just grabbing him and pulling him, but it wasn't on a planet. It was at their space station.
No, that was on the planet. With yes.
It was at their space station because there was all the people. He only went to that planet with him and his like droid. It was at the station, and someone else chopped his leg off.
But he could have been that. This could also raise a question of speculation. Is his trip could have been one of the last soldiers to go to that inhabited planet? Because if you see when he is on that planet, like the structure, and he's looking out of his window, you see other buildings. He's not going to be the only person inhabiting all of those buildings.
Yeah.
So there could be like they went separately into a space expedition to inhabit another planet, and maybe this planet isn't Mars, but it could be another planet that is livable and has enough breathable oxygen that people and plants can survive on.
Interesting.
So maybe that was, and what I think that was, it could have been, maybe an alien inhabitant they found there, and they maybe took it prisoner to run tests and studies on it. Maybe it was, a revolting alien. Maybe it's like something that snuck up on them and kind of like cut it, like slice the arm off, or it could have been anything.
Yeah, I was very confused by it, but I wanted to know more about it and what it was. But they're teasing me. That's the point of it. Yeah. They're teasing me.
For the teasing part, I was like, when I saw the trailer, I was like, fuck them for this part, because I don't know if you recall, Chris Evans is voicing Buzz Lightyear, which is great. But I don't know if you recall, at the end of Avengers: Age of Ultron in 2015, he gets, him and Black Widow, they walk into the hangar and they see all the new Avengers. And the movie ends with him going Avengers, and as he's about to say assemble, it cuts to the credits.
Yeah, because
I literally said "fuck you" to my phone when I was watching the trailer, because the woman he was with went to infinity, and he went and then ended the trailer, and I was like, "You got to be fucking kidding me!"
And
I was not happy about that. I was like, these bastards.
I was so curious. I wrote down "Woman Buzz?" because she was in the same exact uniform he was. So I was like, I wonder if this is a uniform not specific to him, which I thought it has been for years.
Well, yes, because remember, it's probably been a while since you've seen Toy Story 1, but I do recall that he wasn't the only Buzz Lightyear. Like he is Buzz Lightyear, but it's not the Buzz Lightyear suit. It's the Space Ranger suit, because Buzz Lightyear is a Space Ranger, and I'm pretty sure he does have a number. If I'm not mistaken, he does have like a unit number on his armor. I'm not sure, but he could be part of like a much bigger team of Space Rangers. But he was just maybe this movie sees him accomplish such a milestone feat that he is just somewhat like not he's more praised.
Yep.
And he's we can do Buzz Lightyear everything. Buzz Lightyear the TV show. Buzz Lightyear the action figure, and like because that's what I think the story could like aim more towards.
This movie is directed by Angus MacLane, who only has 5 director credits.
Interesting.
But he has been one of the biggest. The actual only full feature movie he's directed is Finding Dory.
Really?
Every other directing credit is like a Toy Story short.
Okay. But he does have that credit of
Finding Dory.
with Finding Dory
Yeah.
and Pixar. He already has experience with
He's
Pixar
worked with
projects.
Pixar for years. He's been
Mhm.
animator on the original Toy Stories.
Okay.
So he knows this world, but he just hasn't been really at the forefront of it. He's just been an animator in the team. So it's going to be interesting to see him step out and actually direct a movie. Because I believe it was co-director of Finding Dory. He wasn't fully the director. Where now he is fully the director. Yeah, now he's like
full control and full.
Yeah,
he has the reins.
Be interesting.
He has the reins.
To see him kind of step forward and see how that goes. All right, the next thing we have to talk about is something that I didn't even know was coming. I only found it because I was looking up the Batman, and it was like one of the recommended things coming out on IMDb.
I can't believe you.
And I was like,
see this.
What?
Yeah.
But it's Peacemaker. It is set to release on January 13th on HBO Max.
Yep.
Which is like the one streaming service I don't have.
What's your brother to get HBO Max?
Literally the only one I do not have is HBO Max. But it's very interesting that this is coming out with John Cena as the lead, where we just got introduced to John Cena as this character in Suicide Squad.
Yes.
Just several months ago.
It's very interesting that they're going to go with the fact that, okay, and here's spoilers, guys. Sorry, but Suicide Squad's been out since August. So if you don't want it spoiled, then this is your spoiler warning right here. At the end of Suicide Squad, John Cena's Peacemaker dies. He dies.
This is probably going to take place as a prequel, before.
Which I'm very fascinated to see that they introduce a character in Suicide Squad, they kill him off, and then they're going to make a prequel show about him because there's only so much you can do with the prequels.
And this is coming in January. So only 6 months previously we were introduced to this character.
A little less than 6 months.
So they had this in the works before they even released the movie.
They could have,
They definitely had to have.
Well, no, not necessarily, too, because, they could have the idea, and they could have got a green light after the movie came out, but they could have, because, TV shows like this and in streaming services shows like this, they don't take too long to film. Because there's a lot less with special effects you have to do with shows like that, because a lot of the stuff they just do, naturally.
Yep. Practical effects and stuff.
Yeah, and they could... A lot of times, too, they could just, film a couple of episodes and put it into a trailer, and then they could finish before it comes out. Because it's not going to come out with the whole series on the 13th, I believe.
I don't know how HBO Max does their shows.
Because it says streaming, so I believe that they're going to release maybe 1 or 2 episodes, and then they're going to release them weekly.
Possibly.
Is what I believe they would do.
But with the show, so we've got John Cena.
Yep.
Then we've got... the two, in my mind, the two leads is John Cena and Danielle Brooks. Daniela Brooks. Daniela Brooks is the woman in the yellow shirt who is kind of his right-hand man throughout the trailer.
Okay.
I think that casting is perfect. She is such a good actress. I was introduced to her on Orange is the New Black.
Yep. Yes.
And, seeing her in that show... It shows how versatile she is. And then seeing her here, I was like, she's badass. Because it wasn't like she's the I know how to kill people and shoot guns type of person. She's like the regular person that warms up to it.
Yes.
And I feel like having that in the show is it's kind of what makes a series rather than a TV show. Well, rather than a movie. Because you'll see the development of her character going from, I'm assuming, shy or person to, I'm gonna put a cap in your ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know one thing. I loved John Cena in Suicide Squad, and I loved his character, and I thought he was very funny. What I'm very excited about is to see that this isn't going to be a dramatic show. It's going to be a more comedy.
Yeah.
And I love John Cena.
Which I feel like he was the comedic. Comedic relief of Suicide Squad.
Yeah, he had a lot of comedic relief within it, but he wasn't the only one. He had Maui Maui, who King Shark. He was a lot of the comedic relief as well. And it wasn't so much like he was a big comedic relief part of it, but a lot of his comedic relief happened between him and Idris Elba.
Which now he has Daniela Brooks to bounce off of.
But I feel as though he'll bounce more off of the. I'm not familiar with the actor who is playing the. I'm not even familiar with the vigilante character that is going to be helping him, the other man in the suit. I feel like he's going to bounce off a lot of comedic ideas with him. A lot of the comedic ideas will bounce off with his father. What I cannot recall the actor's name, but I do love that actor phenomenally. He was first time I ever seen him in anything was when I first saw Terminator 2.
It's Patrick is his name. That's his last name.
I can't recall.
But I think he was in Terminator 2.
He was in. That's what I just
that's
said.
What I know.
Terminator 2. I love that movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and he played it great. And I'm very excited to see him in this. And I feel like he's gonna be extremely funny at being, playing the neglected dad character, and he's gonna probably make fun of his son a lot. And they're gonna rebound a bunch of jokes off each other, and I feel like it's gonna be a very.
This whole cast was like fucking perfect. Like the whole cast was 10 out of 10. The guy in the beginning who was the janitor. Yeah, I know him from Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, he's been in a ton.
And then you've got the one of his people who I'm blanking what, like, he's been in like every movie known to man. You just know who he is. He's the he's got the beard, the red hair. He was in Suicide Squad, the new one.
Was he?
Yeah,
I don't think he was.
He was. He was in The Office.
I don't think he was.
He was one of the like agents in The Office.
I think we'd have to rewatch. I think we'd have to rewatch and look more into it.
He's hilarious, and we barely see him in the trailer. I think he's in like 2 scenes, but I definitely think he'll be a vital part of the team.
He could, and what
it seems like they're a team when we go to that scene when they're
he's mainly discussing more of like here's what's going on, here's the way you can stay out of prison by doing this. But what I think,
that wasn't the one I'm talking about.
No, I know, but no, he was in the office in that scene, and like he's a vital part of the team because it's like, here's where you join my team.
So he does work for the people that put together the Suicide Squad.
Well, here's the thing though, because he says keep it out of prison. But here's the thing, because the Suicide Squad's premise is based around the fact that they're in prison, but they're in a special kind of prison, and they get their time. Yeah. They complete these missions. They get time shaving off their sentence.
Well, he probably got his ass sent back somehow, and maybe we'll see that in this scene. In this,
what I'm saying is like
how he gets back into prison.
Because he's never been sent to prison. He could have been, but we don't know if he's had previous, if he's had time prior to the show being introduced.
His name is Steve Agee.
Okay.
And he was in the Suicide Squad. He plays John Economos.
Okay.
And he plays the same character in Peacemaker.
Okay. So interesting. Okay. Very, very interesting for that tie-in. But I'm very excited to see what else this could easily maybe possibly open up other entries into the Suicide Squad possibly in the future. Seeing other introductions into the franchise. If they decided to make another Suicide Squad movie, I know they've done 2 outings of it. And I personally love the.
Well, there's never been a part like a 2. It's just it got remade, right?
Well, it technically was a 2. Because, we have Harley Quinn again, and she's already been a part of the squad. So it kind of was a 2, but it kind of wasn't. It's very confusing. Because if you bounce back from, the first Suicide Squad, and then Birds of Prey, because it continued Harley's story, because she was with the Joker in Suicide Squad 1. In Birds of Prey, she breaks up with the Joker, and they reference that in the Suicide Squad movie. And, her and Rick Flag are already friends, because those 2 characters, then same actors, were already in the first Suicide Squad movie, and they're already friends. And Captain Boomerang was in this one as well, was in the new Suicide Squad. And spoiler, sorry guys, he died right at the beginning of the movie. So I believe it was a 2, but it was an unofficial 2, if that makes sense. So it was a sequel, but because you still had a lot of the same characters from the first one. And you do the same Viola Davis reprising her role as Miranda Waller. I
don't think it was a 2 as the fact that it was James Gunn trying to be like, you fucked up this one, I'm going to redo it.
But we'll call it 2. We'll call it 2, but we won't like have it as a sequel, really. We'll be like, okay, yes, you went on a past mission. Here's some of the people from the past mission. Now we're going to introduce new characters and keep a few of the old ones, is what it really was. Because there were a bunch of people from it who were in the first one. You had Captain Boomerang. You had
there was a percentage.
Yeah,
The eagle.
I knew as soon as you saw him, you were
So
going to comment about
the
that.
first we see him is in the car, like right off the rip, right in the car. Then we see him walking with the squad as they're doing like their slow-mo badass
Yeah.
walk. And then towards the end of the trailer, we see him in the car again, but we also see him giving John Cena a hug.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And I'm very interested to see how the eagle plays into this world.
My idea is that because, Peacemaker, he explains that, he thinks he's a superhero.
Yeah.
And he thinks that no matter who he kills, as long as it's for justice, it's right.
Oh,
which is not.
Exactly.
It's not.
I can murder you right now for justice.
So, no, wait, what? No. You can't. Well, what I'm thinking is maybe that the eagle will represent his interpretation of, because the American bald eagle represents America. It represents us. So what I'm thinking is that he'll maybe misinterpret that and thinking, oh, this eagle is my friend. This eagle represents America. America and the world are condoning my actions of murder, and he's doing it under false pretenses of saying, oh, the eagle's fine with me just shooting the head off of a bunch of people. Maybe I should keep fucking doing it.
Here's another thing. Is it an actual eagle, or is it like his imaginary friend that he's envisioning?
That could be
That's going to be an interesting thing to uncover. If other people can see this eagle, or if he's just fucking crazy.
Yeah, that'll definitely be something to think about.
He as a character kind of seems like he has a screw loose sometimes.
Yeah, only because of his falsified vision on how the world should work, mainly with his misinterpretation of what's right, what's wrong.
Yeah.
So it could just break a piece out of his psyche. He's like, oh, this is what America wants me to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean.
And then another scene I wanted to bring up was the underwear scene. He started off dancing, and then it cuts and has a few more scenes, and then comes back to him in his underwear fighting a woman, like flying through walls.
Yeah, she could.
And I was like, how does this start as like a dancing scene and then turn into a full-on fight scene with this random person?
Because you see as well, the one he was with and who was fighting. She was also not, dressed, so it could have been, they spent some time together in the bed doing things, and she could have been playing him, and it turns out she's actually a villain, and he's probably like dancing his underwear, celebrating that he just got laid, and it's simple as that. That's
interesting.
This is the only thing I can really think of.
I was very confused.
I'm glad for them to see John Cena donning the famous tighty whities that he also did in Suicide Squad when they were in a camping scene and they woke up and they're camping out and he wakes up completely fucking in tighty whities, and he's wearing the same pair. Fucking.
So this series definitely seems like it's going to be a comedy.
Easily
we talked about that.
Going to be a comedy.
And one of the jokes that was in the trailer, it referred to butt babies. I don't know if you picked up on this.
Yeah, I did, but why?
But it was like, it kind of played to the fact of maybe he's very gullible, and it kind of, because he was told like early on that if someone's quote unquote like ugly, basically, then they came out of the butt instead of, so like, it kind of is like, is he really all there? Mentally?
No, he definitely isn't all there, and that's
kind of why I brought that up, is because that kind of leads on to the screw loose, because like, you should know that ain't how that shit happens.
All right,
by the age that he's at, you know what I mean?
I don't even want to comment on that.
This series is directed mainly by James Gunn, so it's 9 episodes. 8 episodes are James Gunn, who mastermind behind Guardians of the Galaxy's 1 to 3. He did the new remake of the Suicide Squad. He's got 17 director's credits under his belt.
Yes.
Then 1 episode is directed by Brad Anderson, who the best credit I could find for him was Titans. He did 2 episodes of Titans.
Okay.
He has 47 director credits, but they're all small.
Jeez.
So, like, I was looking through his director credits, and I was like, ooh, that show was a train wreck. Ooh, that was not a good show. And I was like, ooh, how's that episode going to be? So that'll be interesting to see how his one episode does.
Well, I feel as though with the experience in the DC universe as well as filming the Titans series,
But he did 2 episodes.
That doesn't matter.
He only has 2, and I think that Titans has been like season. Like Titans has a lot of seasons.
Yeah, but it's also like, but that doesn't matter because it's also, you know, we could always go back and we can find those episodes that he directed and watch them. But a lot of shows are like that, though. You know, take for the Mandalorian, for example. You have a lot of different directors for each episode for the Mandalorian. You have Jon Favreau, you have Taika Waititi, I believe.
Yeah, they had
what's her name? Also directed one.
Bryce Hall.
Yes. Yep.
But the thing with them is they all came from successful projects and director credits already, right? Where this person has 47, and the best one I could pull was 2 episodes of one show. You know what I mean? Everything was either
but then
a train wreck or a no-name project.
But you also have to think about the fact that there's a DC show based in the DC universe, and he already has the 2 credits with the DC universe with Titans.
Yo.
So he could understand that factor, and he could do his research. He had plenty of time and directed that one episode, and it could be a great episode. Hell, if
I also wonder,
you'll watch it, it'll probably be your favorite episode.
Maybe, but I wonder why he only has 2. If it was
because Titans is a big show,
leads down to him not doing good on the 2, or you know what I mean? Because that's what would make me think is, did he not get asked to do more because the episodes were not good?
Yeah, I mean, you never know with that. And we could also, we'll see when the time comes.
Yeah, we definitely will.
All right, so to wrap it up, I think we're going to talk about the big motion picture that is coming out in, well, by the time this episode airs, it'll already been out. It'll be the release date of it, November 5th, right? No, the Eternals.
I don't even know the release date of it.
I believe November 5th.
I've seen the trailer so many times because it's been on like the beginning of every single movie I've gone to see.
Yep.
But I just haven't paid attention.
I believe this weekend it gets released.
Okay. It's very interesting to see because we're coming right off of, just several months ago we had Suicide Squad release, and now we're having another big group movie coming, just a couple months later. I know they're different studios, but it's going to be interesting to see that aspect of it because I think Suicide Squad did pretty fucking good at box office.
It did very well. I'm very excited to see the different. We have a different cosmic being team. We have with the Marvel movies. They're famous for solo movies, and then we have the team up movies. We have the Avengers, and then we have another team up movie, the Guardians. So we have our Earth's Mightiest Heroes. We have our Guardians of the Galaxy, who are more of cosmic kind of beings, and we have the mix of Eternals. So what I believe is the Eternals are not only cosmic, but I do also believe that they're mythic as well. So they have like the same kind of almost like mythic astral energy. It
seemed like they were very old.
Yes, they are. They're as old as the sentient beings that were in charge and had possession of the Infinity Stones.
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting to see what they bring to the table differently than our normal villain or not villains, but our normal heroes like the Avengers, to where they're kind of limited on their powers. Whereas if they're
they're limited, they were instructed not to act upon with their powers unless need be.
Yes,
unless the what they call
they're like
deviants.
In my mind, they refer. It relates easily as sleeper agents.
Yes, but no, it's kind of like deep cover agents.
Yeah,
not really as much sleeper. I'm very intrigued to see how it will incorporate with the collapse of the multiverse, because this is happening around all the I believe the timeline of it will be around the collapsing of the multiverse and how it will affect them as a whole. And I'm very, very fascinated to see. I've heard nothing but good things from early releases about it, and I'm very excited to watch the end credit scenes. I've heard that they are massive end credit scenes that will set up so much for stories to come, and that they're must sees, and you're not going to want to leave the theater before they are done.
The cast of it as well.
I very much enjoy the cast.
Fantastic.
And I love seeing a darker undertone to this movie as well. It seems compared to the other Marvel movies, it seems to have more of a darker undertone that fits perfectly with a well blend of action. Because I did see all these different, you see all the different abilities for all the different Eternals, and you can see what they're made of, doing astral projection and mythical energy that they're, creating using weapons as, and it's going to be very fascinating to see the different powers that each of them possess and what they bring to the table when it comes to the time.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, and probably see it a couple times. Probably. I might probably have to get a grip of the entirety of it, because there's a lot.
I mean, you might not.
Happening. How many people are they introducing? It's like 10 plus.
No, there's like 7 or 8 in the Eternal team. Like, I'm very excited to also see, who could they possibly meet up with first? Could they meet up with Earth's Mightiest Heroes? Could they meet up with the Guardians of the Galaxy? Could they have any interactions with Doctor Strange? And I think we could possibly maybe even see a hint of them when Thor: Love and Thunder comes around.
Oh, okay.
Having it mainly be of a cosmic movie. We have a bunch of different God and Greek a lot of Greek gods. Have their comic book correlation in the Marvel universe. Of course, they use Norse gods like Thor, and then they have Zeus. Is confirmed. I believe Russell Crowe is playing Zeus. And they have the God Butcher, played by Christian Bale, is going to be in Thor: Love and Thunder. And it could be announced later on, like maybe, here's what we also put in there. Maybe we have a couple of cameos from the Eternals. And we never know. We can very much see what happens. I'm for one, I'm very excited to see this movie.
I don't think that this will be the only time we see them.
No, easily not.
They'll definitely be coming back.
They can't introduce a large team like this and just say, oh, okay, one movie and done. All right.
Yeah.
But I am intrigued to see maybe that they could also possibly.
You know what? I wonder if, how they've sort of been told to live in the background. I wonder if in the movies to come, we won't see them introduced, but we'll just see them as like background actors, just to further push that narrative that they've been around and that they've always been in the background.
I don't know. In my opinion, I don't think that will be the case. What I think could possibly happen is that if we don't see them in the upcoming Thor: Love and Thunder, if we don't see them in Spider-Man that releases in December, we could easily just as well see them have a play hand in fixing the multiverse and possibly see them in Doctor Strange.
Spider-Man.
I don't think we'd see them in Spider-Man, but I can tell you we may as well see them in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Probably.
I could easily see them saying, "Wow,
which
the multiverse."
Talking about darker undertones.
Yes, but we'll get to
getting a horror Marvel movie.
We'll get to that in a later episode when we have a trailer for it. We'll talk about it. But I'm very I feel as though the collapse of the multiverse would be like, holy shit, we should maybe fucking help with this.
A lot's going to happen in the next coming years with the Marvel universe.
Yes, I'm very excited to see the direction that they're going in. And all right, I believe that's all the time we have right now. And
if you guys want to keep following up with us, you guys can check us out on Twitter. It's @CRConvo. You can also follow us privately. You can find me over on Twitter @Chris White with 2 T's.
And you can find me over at Brenden White 3. I believe it's 2 T's as well. I will double check with that and put it in a further episode or maybe a description of the episode.
And if you guys have any questions or if you guys want to further talk about anything we mentioned, you can go ahead and shoot us a message. In the description of the podcast is all of the information that you can go ahead and do that. And we may play that and talk about that a little bit further with you in the future.
And if you enjoyed what we were talking about, guys, please catch up with us in later episodes. Please please follow and subscribe any way that can further help our podcast.
Yes, rating the show means a lot.
Yes, thank you very much, guys. And see you next time.
We'll see you next week.